Since many PDE2D users download the software from PDE2D.com, thinking that it will be as easy to install as other modern apps, I thought I should create a video summarizing the main issues with installation of this now completely free software. The main reason PDE2D is more difficult to install than you may have expected is that every time you run PDE2D, you have to compile with a Fortran compiler the user program and link your program with the pre-compiled library to create an executable. Thus, you must have a Fortran compiler installed on your system, and it must be the same as or compatible with the Fortran compiler used to compile the PDE2D library. Although this is the main difficulty with PDE2D installation, it is also what gives PDE2D its extraordinary flexibility. If you're planning to run PDE2D on Windows and don't already have a Fortran compiler installed, you will want to use the Windows Gfortran version. Even if you have another Fortran compiler already, you may want to use this version anyway with the recommended free Gfortran 6.3 compiler. To use this version, download the zip file from the compiled versions page of PDE2D.com, or you can download it directly from the URL given here. Unzip this into the top level of your hard drive, and a subdirectory pd2d.gf will be created with everything in it. The pre-compiled library pd2d.lib that comes with this version has been compiled using a particular compiler, Gfortran 6.3, that can be downloaded free of charge. Look at the readme.txt file. At the bottom are instructions on where to download the required compiler and how to install it. Execute the setup file for this compiler and choose only the Fortran compiler. That's all you will need. Use the default location for the compiler. To be able to run PDE2D from other directories, you need to add these two directories to your path. This is not done automatically for you, so you must do this manually, as the instructions at the top of readme.txt explain. This is a bit tricky, as how to do this may depend on the version of Windows you're using. On Windows 11, I found it best to search for environment variables. This leads me to the screen on the left. I click on Environment Variables and then highlight the path variable for systems, not users, then click on Edit. You can see I've already added the PDE2D and Gfortran directories. You need to add these and save everything. To test the installation, go to pd2d.gf/examples from a command prompt box and try run pd2d space dex1. If this works and creates a PostScript plot file dex1.ps, then you've done everything right and you finished the hard part of installation. You can ignore the warning above. It is completely trivial. To create your own program, you can try pd2d space whatever, and you should get a series of questions. If you get this far, everything is probably working. If you answer all the questions, a file whatever.elf should be created. There are also instructions in the README file on how to install the graphical user interface. As indicated, the GUI is optional. It's only useful to make simple problems very simple. To test the GUI, type from a command prompt box again, pd2d_GUI space whatever. If you get the screen shown, everything is probably working, though you may want to work through one of the three examples all the way to the end. This will test everything. One more note, although there are several ways to view PostScript plot files, for example, the dex1.ps, created by Run PD2D. One option is GSView. If you have Intel Fortran already on your Windows system, there is also a Windows version compatible with Intel Fortran 11 and probably any later version, but not necessarily earlier versions. To use this version, download the zip file from the compiled versions page of PDE2D.com, or you can download it directly from the URL given here. Unzip this file into the top level of your hard drive, and a subdirectory pd2d.itl will be created with everything in it. Now you need to add pd2d.itl to your system path list using the same instructions as given earlier for adding pd2d.gf. This time there's no need to add the compiler path. The instructions in the Windows Intel Fortran README file for installing the GUI and running PD2D are the same as for the Gfortran version, except that they must be run within an Intel Fortran 64-bit window rather than an ordinary command prompt window. The same procedures can be used for testing these commands. If you already have a different Fortran NATI compiler, and probably all Fortran compilers now are Fortran NATI compliant, including a different version of Gfortran, and insist on using that, you will probably need to rebuild the PD2D library pd2d.lib from source code. In this case, you should go ahead and download the Windows Gfortran version and install it as indicated in that README file as before, except of course you can skip the compiler installation. Then you will need to modify run pd2d.bat to compile and link using the new compiler. Then download and unzip the source code file pd2d.96.zip into a different directory. Don't mix files with the Gfortran version. The source code README file is designed for Unix systems, so most of it can be ignored. The only files you will need from pd2d.96.zip are these 5 Fortran files and the 3 include files. Compile these 5 files with the include files in the same directory, and then link them into a new library pd2d.lib. Some compilers will give warnings or fatal errors regarding argument mismatches when compiling subs.elf and dsubs.elf, but these warnings can be ignored, and if fatal, they must be overridden. The errors seem to be very serious, but I can explain why they are not and are in fact intentional. Otherwise, these source code files are highly portable. Replace the old library in pd2d.gf by the recompiled one, and you are done. There is also a Mac version that comes with a library that has been compiled with Gfortran 6.1, but it is unlikely that you will have this compiler, and even if you do, it may not work on your system. So we will assume that you will have to recompile the library using a different Fortran compiler. You must have some Fortran NATI compiler on your system. You can download the zip file from the compiled versions page of pd2d.com or directly from the URL given here. You can unzip it into any parent directory, but the parent directory is set to the home directory in scripts pd2d, pd2d_GUI, and run pd2d unless you change it in all 3 files. Subdirectories of this parent directory called bin, lib, and examples will be created if they don't already exist, with appropriate files placed in each. Your path list must include the pd2d bin directory if this directory is not already included. One way to do this is in your bash profile file as shown here. Since we are assuming you will need to rebuild the library, Download and unzip the source code file pd2d.96.zip into a different directory. Don't mix files with the Mac version. You may need to modify the script run pd2d to compile and link using the new compiler. If it is just a different version of Gfortran, possibly no changes will be needed. The only files you will need from pd2d.96.zip are these 5 Fortran files and the 3 include files. Compile these 5 files using your compiler with the include files in the same directory, and then link them into a new library, labpd2d.a. Some compilers will give warnings or fatal errors regarding argument mismatches when compiling subs.elf and dsubs.elf, but these warnings can be ignored, and if fatal, they must be overridden. The errors seem to be very serious, but I can explain why they are not and are in fact intentional. Otherwise, the source code files are highly portable. Now just replace the old library with the recompiled one. To test the installation, cd to the pd2d examples directory and try run pd2d space dex1. If this works and creates a PostScript plot file dex1.ps, you have finished with the hard part of installation. There are various ways to view a PostScript file on a Mac, but you should also be able to convert it to a PDF using the utility ps2pdf. To create your own program, you can try pd2d space whatever from any directory, and you should get a series of questions. If you get this far, everything is probably working. If you answer all these questions, a file whatever.elf should be created. There are also instructions in the Mac README file on how to install the graphical user interface. As indicated, the GUI is optional. It is only useful to make simple problems very simple. To test the GUI, type pd2d_GUI whatever from any directory. If you get the screen shown, everything is probably working, though you may want to work through one of the 3 examples all the way to the end. This will test everything. PD2D can also be installed on other Unix systems using almost any Fortran NATI compiler. It can be run on multiprocessor Unix systems which have a version of MPI installed. Download and unzip the source code from this URL. For the Windows and Mac installations, we were not interested in the README file, only the source codes. But for general Unix systems, the README file is critical and should be read carefully. You will need to build the library from the source code and make appropriate modifications to the run pd2d script or the run pd2d.mpi script if you are running on a multiprocessor Unix machine. You will not be able to install the GUI. If you want to use the GUI, you will have to install it on another Windows or Mac machine and create your program there, then transfer it to your Unix computer. For information on PD2D usage, there are videos at this URL, one for each chapter of the 2018 PD2D book, and a link also to the general PD2D video on usage.